Since a bunch of you enjoyed the last one, or at least you enjoyed correcting me in the comments section, here are 80 more random and useless facts in Genshin Impact. The Romaritime Harbor lift ride is actually longer going up than it is going down. Going up takes 38 seconds, while going down only takes 27. Meanwhile, the lift in the court of Fontaine from the 1st to the 4th floor is 18 seconds both ways. This event gave us the ability to teabag with a Saurian. There are 268 name cards right now, but my list only shows 249 in-game, though that's probably because I missed some event ones. My favorite name card is this one, because it shows my mental instability. Arlecchino does not wear gloves. It's actually her curse that's causing her skin to be blackened like that. I hope she'll be able to navigate around the backlash when the curse eventually covers her entire body, and she inevitably gets cancelled for doing blackface. Kazuha can make mob drops float. In fact, pretty much all Anemo characters can in some capacity with the exceptions of Lynette, Yehoda, and Sayu. Some can do it with their skills like Kazuha, Sucrose, and Jean, while others can do it with their bursts like Shanyun, Mizuki, Lanyan, Aoife, Heizo, and Faruzan, who technically does it with a combination of her burst and charge attack. I don't have Chaska, Wanderer, Shao, Venti, or Varka, so let me know in the comments if they can do this too. Also, shout out to Zhongli and this group of Fatui for helping me charge everyone's bursts, and shout out to the group of Fatui I murdered in cold blood whose drops I used for this experiment. There are currently 26 sword, 19 claymore, 20 bow, 26 catalyst, and 22 polearm users amongst the playable characters. On a related note, for the first 5 years since the game's release, there were no hydro claymore users. Aino was the first one. On a more related note, the only geocatalyst user is Ningguang, and has been ever since the game's release. On an unrelated note, you can actually sit atop Neuvillette's seat in the Opera Epiclese, as long as you get a little help. Wanderer owners are probably laughing at me right now, but there we go, the best seat in the house. You can actually go higher than this, but at some point you'll just feel like a cat that's gotten stuck on top of the fridge.
Help me.
The boiling water around the Emperor of Fire and Iron does in fact do damage, and I've always wondered what a boiled crane tastes like. Apparently, Dehya isn't a cat girl. In other news, Hoyoverse HQ has become the victim of an arson attack, and no, I will not apologize. But yes, as some of you corrected in my last video, those aren't cat ears, which actually makes sense if you look closer to see how it connects with her hair. Speaking of characters with animal-like features, let's go through some of them to hopefully clear up some misunderstandings. The ancestry of Sucrose's ears is actually unknown. It's even written in her character story how she spent time observing Diona to see if they had any shared ancestry. So technically, we don't know. Ching isn't a cat girl, that's just her hair. And that was obvious. Diona is a cat girl, that's also obvious. Ganyu is half Qilin, which means those are obviously goat horns, yes. Wait a second. Yanfei's antlers are said to belong to another Chinese mythical creature known as... that. Sayu doesn't actually have animal ears, those are just part of her hood. Goro, doggo. Yai Miko's ears are fox ears, or more specifically, kitsune ears, which translates to fox. But Japan. Tignari, another fox, or more specifically, large desert dog. Sino is obviously designed with the Anubis in mind, but those ears are just part of the headdress and not actually part of his body. Kirara and Lynette, both cats. I've seen a couple comments about Ridesley being a cat boy, but in reality, he just has a bad case of bedhead. Kachina's constellation name is Ochotona Princeps, which means American Pika, which is some sort of rabbit-looking thing. Mualani has seal flippers on top of her head, but from what I could find, there's no indication that they're actual flippers and not part of her hair. Shalonen's a cat, Varisa's a cow, Dahlia does not have cat ears, those are part of his hat, Loma's a deer, and Durin's horns, tail, and wings are obviously an overgrown lizard. If I missed anyone, they're either an elf or Ito. There are 97 permanent gadgets in the game, but it's currently impossible to own all of them for multiple reasons. For example, there are 6 mini Sealies which you can get from the Lost Riches event. However, you could only pick one during the event, and there have only been 4 Lost Riches events since the game came out. Some gadgets like the bubbly camera and the Neo Terminal floating leaf model are even region locked.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
When you hit a tree in Dragonspine, snow falls off. The moon actually has less gravity than Teyvat. And on a similar note, Teyvat is round. I'm not sure if there were any flat Teyvat theories floating around, but I don't think you can pin this one on a fisheye lens. There are 29 types of wood, some of which look more like overgrown broccoli, while others look like, even evolved fungi. If you head to the Favonius Keep in Nodcry, you'll find the Favonius Knights stationed there singing. While I can't understand what they're singing about, I have no doubt it's about the fact that they're burning me at the stake. They finally added wolves to Wolvendom that will actually follow you if you have Razor or Varka in your party, and while this is adorable, I'm gonna let my intrusive thoughts leak out a little. Wow, I feel really bad now. Meanwhile, the wolves in Nodcry got the predator treatment from Zootopia and will treat 99% of people as free food. Unless of course you have Llama or Columbina in your party, in which case they ignore you like how your parents did when you were younger. That's right, not getting attacked by wolves in Nodcry is now considered pay to win. When you run with Sabai, you can faintly hear the rhythm of a horse galloping. Speaking of which, here are a few more interesting sound design choices for when characters run. Arlecchino with her heels, Kirara with her paws, Inefa with her robotic legs, and Nahida with her bare feet. You don't actually have to go to your Adventurer's Handbook to collect your commissions anymore. If you have enough encounter points, you can just talk to Catherine and she'll give you the 60 primos straight up. If you stare at Columbina while playing tic-tac-toe with her, she'll awkwardly remind you that you're being a creep.
What are you staring at, fucker?
Charlotte's camera is named Monsieur Verite. Verite meaning truth in the language of baguettes. And speaking of Charlotte, if you activate this gadget Special Analysis Zoom Lens, you can become a vlogger using Charlotte's skill, which is pretty neat until you piss off the local heretic and his weapons grade uranium. There's an area on Lempo Isle in Nodcry called Nothing Passage. I took it upon myself to investigate whether or not there was truly nothing there, and I'm disappointed to say that there isn't just a big void of nothingness. You can get a gadget from Lynette's Hangout, which is basically a D20 for the dyslexic. However, as a linguistics expert, I've been able to easily read what comes out of that hat. For example, that's a 15, that's a 5, that's a 12, that's another 12, and that's a slur. Speaking of gadgets, the gadget with the longest cooldown is not the Red Feather Fan with its 100-second cooldown, it's not the Parametric Transformer or the Crystal Flytrap, both having 7-day cooldowns. It's actually the Artifact Transmuter, which technically has a month-long cooldown for extracting Sanctifying Elixir. In order from least to most, Nodcry has 21 sub-areas, Mondstadt, including Dragonspine, has 24, Natlan, which includes the Ancient Sacred Mountain, and Fontaine, which includes the Sea of Bygone Eras, both clock in at 41. Inazuma, which includes Enkonomiya, has 44. Sumeru, with its massive fat-ass desert, surprisingly only comes in second with 49. And Liyue, which includes the Chasm, has the most sub-areas with 52. The most isolated place in Genshin, and by that I mean the furthest away from any waypoint while not being in the middle of the ocean north of Inazuma, is this area on Sumeru's coastline. And yes, I did feel very stupid measuring my screen with a ruler.
Yep, that's a long boy.
Remember Netochka from that quest where you infiltrated one of the 20 Fatui research facilities in Nodcry to steal classified documents?
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
Well, you can actually find Netochka in Nasha Town. She's enjoying life. If you head over to the Curatorium of Secrets, you'll normally see Yehoda working, but if she's not, you can actually work in her place and help a bunch of customers with their requests. The ones who visited me were Escoffier, who's going to bribe Aino with food, Gaming, who's here for a birthday party, Emily, who's here to solve another murder, and Chevres, who's here to instigate a coup. Clearly, my work was unsatisfactory, because when I visited the next day, Ashru the cat had taken my place. The Aquabus ride from Maritime Harbor to the court of Fontaine is almost 6 minutes long. Next to the Knuckle Duckle in Nodcry, there are a couple crates you can't stand on. In fact, they're so slippery that they probably use these in Total Wipeout. If that were the case, I hope no horizontally inclined people were competing, because they aren't very sturdy. Don't mind where Yolande's looking, she's just found another victim to induct in the torture program. Anyway, Beto's ship has a bookkeeper. You can see her in the background past the octopus, and she's aptly named Mora Grubber. Unless you spawn another one or break it, your Waverider won't ever despawn. I actually always thought it did, so imagine my surprise when I saw that the Waverider I used to sail from Inazuma to Liyue in the last Useless Facts video is still sitting there 5 months later. Every area on the surface of Teyvat has a statue of 7, despite how out of the way some of them seem. Except for this area in Chenyu Veil, which doesn't have a statue and is made fun of constantly at the lunch table during recess. The release order of the Hypostasis bosses is as follows. Anemo, Electro, and Geo came out with Mondstadt and Liyue, then Cryo made its home in Dragonspine 3 patches after Dragonspine was already released, then Pyro got released with Inazuma, then Hydro got released a patch after with Watatsumi Island, then finally Dendro got released 1 patch after the desert came out. There are currently 37 Waverider waypoints in the game, and they only exist in Inazuma, Sumeru, and Fontaine. There are a couple ways to get to the Orchid of Paradisa. You could do the quest and all that and enter through here, or you could go to this TP, go into this cave, use a short character to squeeze in between these rocks, then fly through the void towards this weird shape that looks like a puzzle piece got chewed up by a dog, and after making it, what you then must do is leave and do the quest because Jet deserves it. Speaking of this area, yes, you do take fall damage if you fall onto the water here. I guess this is what they mean by water feeling like concrete if you fall from high enough. If you're not too busy fighting this boss, you can get front row seats to a free figure skating show. But I'm not talking about this comically large throne, I'm talking right in the middle of the rink while they're mid-routine. And speaking of the Icewind Suite boss, depending on which option you pick to challenge it, you get a different boss drop. Some places in Genshin have got some scary names, like the Passage of Ghouls, or the Nursery of Nightmares, or the Chasm of Endless Decay. And of course, I can't forget about the Serpent's Bowels. Gives me chills every time I think about it. There are 2 giant robots in the Sumeru Desert, one of which looks like it's doing a special salute on the map. There are 21 characters who don't have a voice line for when it snows. Itlua with a silent G and a non-existent T, Nefer, Dahlia, Iansan, Mizuki, Lanyan, Kinich, Shanyun, Kole, Shenhe, Eula, Ganyu, Klee, Diluc, Noel, Bennett, Beidou, Shangling, Razor, Lisa, and Amber. In the flagship in Nodcry, you can change the music by playing around with this jukebox. This is what happens when you try to swim towards the waterfalls in Fontaine. The Shogunate has quite a few stairs, which in total consists of 141 steps leading to where you challenge Signora. And yes, I did count each and every one. Beta Harbor is the most pointless location added to the game. Mondstadt and Liyue have 4 artifact domains, Sumeru and Fontaine both have 3, and Inazuma, Natlan, and Nodcry all have 2. On the topic of domains, there are currently 46 domains in total in the game. 20 artifact domains, 7 weapon material domains, 7 talent material domains, and 12 weekly boss domains. Speaking of bosses, excluding the Trounce domain ones, there are 44 other bosses in the game. And interestingly enough, since Andreas doesn't have his own domain, he's listed here even though he's a weekly boss. This island west of the Kuvaki Experimental Design Bureau is actually in bounds, which means I'm going to walk to it to find out if anything's there. Now that I have, I can confidently say that there's nothing here. But at least the view's amazing. In the Sanctuary of Sirasthana, you actually can't fall off the center as the game won't let you. You can, however, jump off the bridge. There are 336 books on this bookshelf behind me in the House of Dehya. Yes, I did count them myself, and yes, that includes the books phasing into the walls and shelves. There are currently 60 artifact sets, 59 that are obtainable in the game, and yes, some of them are actually useful. There are 4 giant windmills in Mondstadt, 3 in the city, and 1 in Springvale. There are 17 Wind Glider skins, with quite a few of them being exclusive. The Winds of Dissension is only available to PS4 or PS5 users. The Wings of Shimmering Galaxy was only available by logging in during the 2021 Genshin concert event. The Wings of Fate's Course Intertwined is still available on Xbox, but was only available for other platforms during 5.3. The Wings of Feasting was only obtainable by either eating KFC if you lived in China, or getting a code from a Twitch event in late 2021 if you lived anywhere else. The Wings of Transient Dreams was only obtainable if you attended one of the 2023 Genshin concerts in person. The Wings of the Starlit Feast was only obtainable to those who either ate Pizza Hut if you lived in China, Pizza al Volo if you lived in South Korea, or was an Amazon Prime member back in early 2023. The Wings of Delicacies was obtainable through too many ways to list depending on your country, and since this fact is getting a bit long-winded, here it is on screen and I'll give you 5 seconds to read it. You can see NPC name tags turn depending on your camera perspective. If you try to block this Gardamex way, it'll start tweaking out until it gets past you. You can find 5 kinds of banners in Mondstadt. This one depicts a wolf, which for some reason changes direction depending on which banner you're looking at. This one depicts a falcon, and no, that's not Shanyun hiding behind it. This one has a dragon on it, which automatically makes it 10 times cooler than the rest. This one's got a lion, and this one's got a volcano spewing out a castle. don't make fun of my interpretation. Sumeru is the largest nation by far in terms of landmass, and unless Snezhnaya is gonna have the same landmass as Russia, I don't think that's changing anytime soon. You can't actually climb the Spiral Abyss Gate, but there are ways to get on top of it. Obviously, if you're cool and have Shanyun, you can parkour your way up, or if you have Scaramouche, you can just float up, or you could just use this gadget like a sane person and just glide there.
You're boring.
The central laboratory ruins of the old Fontaine Research Institute consist of 13 floating cubes of water. In the Sumeru Desert, you can see a group of floating anemo fungus doing a conga line.
Take me to the hotel. My hands are on a guy's ass.
There are 693 teleport waypoints currently in the game, 55 of which are statues of 7. And if you think I counted every single one on my own, thanks, but no thanks. You can get yourself fully stuck in the floor here at Nasha Town. How did I get here? Well, in my endless pursuit of getting stuck in weird places, I rode this crate out of curiosity, then took it a step further by getting crushed by it and becoming part of the floor gang.
Look at the top of his head!
And due to my masochistic tendencies, I wanted to be crushed a second time and got fully stuck in the floor. Of course, Shanyun can easily get out of this, but where's the fun in that? There are at least 28 cats living at the Asase Shrine, and I say at least because they're all over the place and I may have missed a couple. They're on the cliffs, they're on the torii gates, they're even in the trees. Oh, and you can also feed them. This might be the best sub-area in the entire game. The Fortress of Meropide has 6 levels, which is 5 too many for my tiny directionally challenged brain. The deeper you move towards the center of the sandstorm in the desert, the less visibility you will have, until the only thing you can make out in the distance is the statue of 7 you came from. You can see the mausoleum of King Deshret from Nasha Town. As long as they're not sitting down, dogs will actually follow you around up until a certain distance. Puspa Cafe has its very own public bidet, and I'm probably getting blacklisted from every restaurant in the city after this. In Chenyu Veil, there are 2 kinds of ducks in close proximity to each other. When I shoot at these white ones, they don't even flinch. But if I go over here and do the same to these ones, they freak out like I just told them Peking duck was on the menu. This guy has been wrestling the Tatankasaurus for the past year and hasn't had any breaks. And that's how you know wrestling is fake. If you have enough ingredients, you can bake some bread using some random Ratnik's outdoor oven. It takes Furina 12.5 minutes to run from Rito and Inazuma to Liyue Harbor. Even though it's a straight line, I was slightly worried about getting lost. I just kept repeating to myself, when you see Beto's ship, bank a left, and hoping I didn't somehow end up out of bounds. And now that I've parked my Furina next to my Waverider, these are all the facts I've got for you today. I hope they were as useful to you as the Bloodstained Chivalry set, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye bye now.